So with it now confirmed that Wrexham AFC will be playing Sky Bet League 1 football next season, in today's video I'm going to be building and rebuilding their squad, seeing who they need to renew in terms of contracts, who they need to release, and also some potential transfer targets as well. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 100 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you are new as well. We're on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Wrexham fans, let me know down below, where do you expect to finish next season, and what would be a successful season really for Wrexham at next campaign. Also, let me know down below any potential transfer targets that you want your club to sign. Let's waste no further time and get straight into it. So there is no other place to start other than Phil Parkinson and whether he is the right man for the job at Wrexham, and the answer is probably yes, isn't it? There was maybe a period of time around February, March sort of time where some Wrexham fans were asking that question if Parkinson was the right man for the job. I remember when my team Bradford City beat Wrexham 1-0 at the racecourse, and there are a couple murmurs and mumblings about a potential change of management, but the ownership decided to stick with Parkinson and he's managed to get them at back-to-back promotions, and he has been an exceptional season this season really for Wrexham. You look at Phil Parkinson's record this season with them, averaging 1.86 points per game, 44 league matches played, 24 wins, 10 draws and 10 defeats, achieving 82 points in that time. Even his spells at other clubs like Sunderland and Bradford were pretty successful. Obviously got to a League Cup final with Bradford, beat Chelsea in the FA Cup, but he was a real legend at Bradford City, certainly my favourite manager in my lifetime. At Bolton I don't think he did too bad either, considering the circumstances and their off-the-field issues, but Parkinson, the proof is in the pudding. He's a very good manager, he wins promotions, and he's definitely the right man for the job in my opinion. Now let's go assess the squad. Now in terms of how Wrexham's squad is currently lining up, I'll put it on screen for you now. If a player is highlighted in yellow, their contract is set to expire at the end of this current season, and if they are highlighted in orange, their loan deal is set to expire at the end of this season. Now any information taken from today's video was taken from Transfermarkt, so if anything is wrong I do apologise. Owen O'Connell and Stephen Fletcher's contract length is not disclosed publicly, hence why there is a question mark there, but as you can see there's a lot of talent in this Wrexham squad. Some people would argue maybe it's a little bit too bloated. I think they've got a couple people out on loan. I think Billy Waters is out on loan at Doncaster for example, but he is not on Transfermarkt, so I can only apologise about that. Players who are out on loan don't feature on there, and I can't go through every single player to have ever played to see if Wrexham might have some players out on loan. But we are going to start out then with the players who I would be releasing from their contracts first. First up, I've gone with goalkeeper Liam Hall. They signed him from Bradford Park Avenue. They've got a number of different goalkeepers. He is out of contract in the summer, only 19 years of age, and I'm not really too sure why they brought him in. It might have been for potential injury cover, but at 19 you would think if they saw a real player in Liam Hall they would have given him a 2, 3, 4 year contract, but the fact he's only been given a deal until the end of the season, I don't really understand the thinking behind this. He's only featured on the bench on 3 occasions, and that was in Wrexham's 3 EFL trophy games. He is not featured in a single league fixture all campaign, so I think it would just really make sense to move him on. I don't think Wrexham have an under 23, so I don't really get the point in this signing, to be honest. The next player who I'll be looking to move on then in the summer is goalkeeper Rob Layton, 34 years of age now, out of a deal in the summer, and has not featured in a single competitive fixture for Wrexham, whether that be in the starting squad, on the bench. He has not featured whatsoever since they were in the National League. His last appearance for the football club in a competitive game was Bromley away back in the 22-23 campaign, and for a 34-year-old you just don't really need all these different goalkeepers that they've got. He's been an okay servant for the football club, but I think it's best really for all parties to make it this point in time where they do decide to part company with Rob Layton. The third player who I would be releasing at the end of his contract is central defender Jordan Tunnicliffe. Now this season he has only managed the 7 appearances, only 4 of them being starts. He is now 30 years of age as well, and he hasn't featured in a Wrexham matchday squad since Gillingham away, which was at the end of February. I don't know if this is through injury, but even in the games that he has played, only averaging 0.3 interceptions per game, 1 tackle per game, 1.6 balls recovered per game, 3.4 clearances per game as well. They're just not stats that really stand out, and I think Wrexham are going to want to spend money this summer. They're going to want to improve on their squad, squad, and I feel like for a 30-year-old who hasn't featured much this season to be out of contract, it will probably be best for all parties for him to move on. He signed for Wrexham on the 1st of July 2022, so he's been there for a couple of seasons now. His duel stats are quite good. He wins 71% of his ground duels and 72% of his aerial duels. I could certainly see him going to another League 2 side. I don't see his future with Wrexham at this moment in time. I think it makes sense really for all parties if he is to move on in the summer. The next player who I will be looking to move on then in the summer is another central defender, and that is Ben Tozer. Now again, has been a very good servant for the football club since joining from Cheltenham Town. He is now 34 years of age though. There is a lot of experience in this side, but it gets to a point where you might have too much experience and you've got too many leaders, and I know that can maybe seem a little bit daft at saying that, but Ben Tozer, when you look at his age, again, out of a deal in the summer, Wrexham are going to want to improve on what they've currently got, and I just think it makes sense really for all parties. He's not exactly stood out. He hasn't featured much recently as well. He's been an unused substitution in each of Wrexham's last 7 games, apart from one where he came on off the bench away at Doncaster for literally additional time in the second half, so I don't think you can really count that. He's only managed to 25 starts as well this season. Again, defensive stats don't really stand out. Only 0.5 interceptions per game, only 0.9 tackles per game as well. He only wins 51% of his ground duels. I just think there is better out there. Wrexham want to improve on players like Ben Tozer, and again, they will miss his long throw, but with the new rule they've brought in with the towels and stuff, I don't think it has been quite as effective this season as what it was last campaign. Again, been a very good servant for the football club, but I think now is the right time to part ways. The penultimate player who I would be looking to move on this summer is left back, left wing back, left midfielder Callum McFadzean. Now he has only managed the one single appearance so far this season for Wrexham, and that was in their 3-1 win away at Grimsby in League 2 back at the end of March. Apart from that, he has not featured in a single league game all season. He has played the odd EFL trophy game, but he's just played the 40 minutes off the bench for Phil Parkinson's side, and I just think it would be best really for all parties. If you've got a player here who's not playing, you look at the competition in that position already with Jacob Mendy, James McLean, who are so much better than McFadzean. He is now 30 years of age as well. I'll be very surprised if he's here next season, and don't think really many Wrexham fans would disagree with that, to be fair. And the final player who I will be looking to release this summer, who is currently out of a deal with the football club at the end of this campaign, it's very controversial, but I've gone with club captain Luke Young. He has only managed the 10 starts this season, and again, 31 years of age. I look at his output, 1 goal, 2 assists. It's not a lot from a midfielder. If you're then thinking, well, he might offer you something defensively, just a 0.3 interceptions per game, 0.6 tackles per game, and 0.6 clearances per game as well. He wins less than 50% of his duels. He only has a 20% successful dribble rate. I'm just not seeing here statistically what he's offering to this side. The last game that he played was the middle of March. Again, in that game away at Grimsby, he got a 6.4 rating according to SofaScore. I know it might be controversial because he is the club captain, but I look at the statistics, I look at his age, I look at the fact Wrexham are going up another division, and they'll be wanting to add more quality into what is an already compact, and there's a lot of competition for places in that central midfield. You think the likes of Elliot Lee, you've got Andy Cannon, James Jones, Jordan Davies, even George Evans as well, and then you're going to be wanting to bring other players into that side. I feel like it makes sense really for all parties. Again, I think he's more than good enough to be playing in League 2, but just the 10 starts, no output going forward, a poor output defensively, and I just feel like for all parties it would make sense. I know it's controversial, but that is just my personal opinion. I think Luke Young should move on at the end of this campaign. Moving on then to the players' contracts who I would be looking to renew before next season does begin. Starting out with goalkeeper Mark Howard. He might be 37 years of age, but I certainly see him more as a backup. He's been at Wrexham for a number of years now, even managed a couple of League 2 appearances this season, and has on the whole done quite well. You know, you look at 7 appearances in total, 6 of them being starts. He did actually average 1.3 goals conceded per game, but I feel like he will be here as a backup, and he's just an okay option. You know, he has been with Wrexham since the 5th of July 2022 after leaving Carlisle, and for me personally, he's just a good senior figure to have around the dressing room. 37 years of age, plenty of experience in there, and not a bad backup either. The next player who I'll be looking to have back for next campaign is another goalkeeper, and that is Arthur Okonkwo. He's been on loan from Arsenal this campaign, and with Wrexham getting promoted, I certainly can see them bringing him back for next season. 34 appearances for him in total. He has averaged conceding less than 1 goal per game. He's saved 1 out of 3 penalties as well, only conceded 6 goals from outside the penalty penalty area, and I think he's a really, really good goalkeeper at this level. Has kept the 13 clean sheets as well for Wrexham this season, which after only 34 appearances, I think is a pretty decent return. He did actually play for Aston Villa's under-21s yesterday. I'm not really too sure why, but he conceded 5 goals in that one. I'm not really too sure what's going on there, but he has been absolutely outstanding for Wrexham this season. A big improvement on Ben Foster for me, and at 22 years of age, I feel like Arsenal will be looking to send him out on loan for another season, and you're probably looking after a successful season in League 2. They'll be wanting him to get League 1 football, and why not make that continue with Wrexham? He's a big unit in that goal as well, but he's also someone who can play it with his feet. I think at League 1 level, he's more than competent to play in that division, and for me personally, I'll be looking to get him back for next season. The penultimate player who I will be looking to keep around for next campaign is central defender Aaron Hayden. Now, I know he has struggled with injuries this season, and he has given a couple penalties away as well, but I look at 27 years of age, he's now coming into his prime. He's made 15 starts for Wrexham this season, chipped in with 1 goal and 2 assists, but defensively, very good. 3 clean sheets, 1.4 interceptions per game, 1.2 tackles per game, 4.6 balls recovered per game, and 4.5 clearances per game as well. He wins 63% of his aerial duels, and I think he would be a really, really good option for Phil Parkinson's side to have for next season. Would he be starting week in, week out? I'm not too sure. You think about his injuries, he probably is going to pick up another one at next season, but I doubt he's exactly on the biggest wages. I don't think he's going to be, on the wages like a Paul Mullin or an Elliot Lee, and I just feel like to have that continuousness in the side and in the squad. He has obviously been there for a number of years now. He's been there for 3 years already. He'll be looking at maybe another 2-year contract. You're looking at then 5 years at Wrexham. I feel like they're the sort of players you need around the dressing room, and at just 27 years of age, I think it makes sense really for all parties for his contract to be renewed and to be here with Wrexham for next campaign. And the final player who will be looking to have back for next campaign, whose contract is currently set to expire this summer, is a man who I don't think likes the king very much, James McLean. He has been outstanding since joining the football club. 3 goals and 9 assists from left wing back in 35 starts. He's been absolutely outstanding. You look at his defensive stats as well: 2.6 tackles per game, 4.9 balls recovered per game. It's not a bad return. He wins over 50% of his total duels as well. He has committed 1 penalty offence this season, but he's averaged 7.22 in League 2 this season, which I think is absolutely outstanding for a left wing back. And his output, I mean, he got 3 assists in Wrexham's most recent match at home to Forest Green Rovers. That is absolutely incredible, and if he is not around for next season, I'd be massively surprised, because he has been brilliant. I think he'll probably only get a 2-year extension at the absolute maximum, because he is 34 years of age, but he's got that championship experience. He's got a lot of League 1 experience as well, and I think that'll be massive for Wrexham next season, and I'll be very surprised if he's not here next campaign. But we're not done there in terms of departures. Now, I have for you is 4 players who are currently contracted to be with the football club for next season, but I personally wouldn't have around. I'd be looking to try and move them on, get some money in for them, and just try and get them off the wage bill. Starting out with central midfielder Jordan Davies. He has played 23 times in League 2 this season, but only 2 of them have been starts, and I just feel like, again, Wrexham are going to want more options and better quality in there than someone like a Jordan Davies. He is 25 years of age, so I do think they'll get a good amount of money in for him, and you look at 2 goals, no assists. It's not a bad return from just the 2 starts. He has only managed on average 19 minutes per game in the matches that he has featured in, but he's been an unused substitution for the large part. His last 10 games, he has not managed a 7.0 or higher match rating. His recent form hasn't particularly stood out. His defensive output is poor: 0.1 interceptions per game, 0.4 tackles per game, 0.3 clearances per game as well. Only wins 44% of his aerial duels, and I just think for all parties really it makes sense to move him on. Again, a lot of competition for places in central midfield, and I think that's going to be a position that Wrexham look to improve in this summer. I don't see room for Jordan Davies in the squad. I don't see him being registered for next season, so I think personally it makes sense for all parties to see him move on. The second player who is currently contracted to Wrexham for next campaign, but I will be looking to move on, is right wing back Anthony Ford. 30 years of age now, has only managed at 8 starts this season, 1 goal and 1 assist. Just simply isn't good enough. You look at the competition Wrexham have got in that right wing back position. Ryan Barnett, I personally believe, is one of the best players in the division. I think he's absolutely outstanding in the 2 games that I've seen him play against Bradford City, and also Luke Bolton as well, who came in from Salford in January, is very good. And you look at Anthony Ford's age and his output this season, the lack of game time that he's had. He hasn't featured in a matchday squad since the middle of January, and I don't know whether that's through injury or through selection, but when he's been in the side, Wrexham have only kept 1 clean sheet as well. His defensive output is shocking at 0.2 interceptions per game, 0.7 tackles per game, and 0.9 clearances per game as well. That's not good enough. He's amount of aerial duels he's won is pretty decent at 68%, but that's kind of all he's really got going for him. And I think when you're only making the 8 starts, there's 2 better players playing ahead of you, and you've still got a year left on your contract at 30 years of age, I just think for me personally, it makes sense for all parties to see him move on and just try and get a bit of money in for him, because I think he's still more than good enough to be playing at League 2 level, but I don't see his future with Wrexham in my opinion. The penultimate player who is currently contracted to Wrexham for next campaign, but I would personally be looking to move on, is 32-year-old striker Ollie Palmer. He is contracted with the football club until 2025. He's made the 37 appearances for Wrexham in League 2 this season, only the 23 starts, but his output is pretty poor. Only the 5 goals, and he's got an 8% goal conversion rate. That is absolutely shocking. You look at Darwin Núñez in the Premier League, he's got a higher goal conversion percentage than Ollie Palmer. He misses so many chances. He's missed 11 big chances for Wrexham this season. I understand you're not going to score all of them. Even Paul Mullin sometimes misses big chances, but to just have an 8% goal conversion rate, that's not good enough. I don't think his overall output is particularly great either. You look at only 2 assists in there as well, and for such a big physical striker to win only 50% of his aerial duels, it's simply not good enough. And I understand that, you know, Wrexham fans quite like Ollie Palmer. Me personally, don't really like him, but that isn't why I'd be looking to move him on in the summer. I just don't think that he gives enough output. 7 goal contributions in 37 appearances with only an 8% goal conversion rate. I cannot stress how poor that is. Wrexham need quality, and you look at some of the competition for places like Stephen Fletcher, Jack Marriott, Paul Mullin, along as Sam Dolby as well. They'll be looking to bring in 1, maybe 2 more strikers. I don't see a world in which Ollie Palmer is getting any type of football next season really for Wrexham, and at 32 years of age he needs to be playing football, so I think it makes sense really for all parties to see him depart the club this summer. And the final player then, who is currently contracted with Wrexham for next campaign, but I would personally be looking to move on, is another striker, and that is Sam Dolby. Now the reason why the asterisk is next to his name, because I wouldn't let him go permanently. I'd let him go out on loan until January and then reassess from there. This season he has managed the 31 appearances, only the 14 starts, but he's got 1 goal. And 5 assists is not bad, but 1 goal for a striker isn't a particularly great output. And listen to this goal conversion percentage, 3%. He only scores 3% of his shots. That is not good enough, but it could come down to a lack of game time. He hasn't played much football recently since the turn of the calendar year, but 5 assists isn't a bad return, but just a 1 goal and a 3% goal conversion rate, I mean, that's simply not good enough, is it? I think more than likely a National League loan move is on the cards, potentially bottom half of League 2, but at 24 years of age, I do think there is the potential that he could make it one day. Do I see that being with Wrexham? I'm not so sure. I don't think he will be with the football club next season. He's probably going to end up being 7th or 8th choice striker after they make their signings, especially in that forward line, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's a permanent deal that does see him move on from the football club, but I personally believe that it makes sense really for all parties to get him out on loan until at least January, but it might even be until the end of the campaign. So with all my current transfer business concluded then in terms of players' contracts who I would renew and release, and also players who are contracted for next season or I would be looking to move on, here is how the Wrexham squad would line up. As you can see, they've got a very, very good core, and there's not many players who are currently out of contract that I would be looking to keep around, to be fair. You look at the options that are in there, I think bringing a Concord back would be a really smart piece of business, but again, wouldn't be the end of the world. Mark Howard is just a backup, so very easy replaceable. Aaron Hayden, I would keep him around, but if he wants stupid money, then I wouldn't be chucking the bank at him. James McLean, I think personally, is the most important one, but again, because he's 34 years of age, could you find that output somewhere else? Wrexham have certainly got the funding and the transfer budget to do so. They've certainly got a very good core of squad. Obviously, just to confirm the players who I would not have at the football club who are currently contracted for next season, Sam Dolby would go out on loan for me, and then I would sell Jordan Davies, Anthony Ford and Ollie Palmer. Now let's get into the fun part of today's video, some transfer targets that Wrexham could sign for next season. I have a centre-back, a DM, an attacking midfielder, a striker, and then also some bonus players as well, because Wrexham are Wrexham, they've got the money to be able to sign some of these bonus players. So in total, there is 15 potential transfer targets that Wrexham could sign this summer. Let's get into it. Starting out then with the central defender options. Firstly, we have Josh Knight at Peterborough United, contracted with them until 2024. Jimmy Dunn at QPR is in a very similar situation. His contract is set to expire this summer. And also Sean Raggett at Portsmouth, again, same situation. His contract is set to expire with Portsmouth. It's Wrexham we're talking about here. Josh Knight might be a little bit unrealistic, but they've got that pulling power and they've got the money. I would be surprised if Peterborough got promoted that he didn't stay around with them, but if Wrexham can convince him him to be a part of their project, I think would be an absolutely outstanding signing, but maybe a little bit unrealistic. Jimmy Dunn has been exceptional with QPR over the last couple of seasons, but Wrexham have got that pulling power to sign players from the Championship, and on a free transfer, I think would be an absolutely outstanding pickup. And then maybe the most realistic of them all, Sean Raggett at Portsmouth was brilliant for them over the last couple of seasons. This year hasn't played as much, but has recently been back in the team due to injury, and I think he's a very good, no-nonsense centre-half at League One level. He's not the greatest on the ball, but he provides some real competition in the centre of defence for Owen O'Connell, and I think would be an outstanding pickup for Wrexham on a free transfer. Moving on then to my holding midfielder suggestions to provide some competition for George Evans. Firstly, we have Ollie Rathbone of Rotherham United. His contract is set to expire this summer. Will Vaux is in a similar situation at Sheffield Wednesday. His contract is also set to expire at the end of this campaign. And finally, Jonathan Hogg, again, a very similar situation. His contract is set to expire at the end of this season. All three of these players are playing for a different Yorkshire side, and I think Ollie Rathbone will probably end up in the Championship, but he's the type of signing that I could certainly see Wrexham making. Will Vaux was good for Sheffield Wednesday last season, hasn't played as much this season as what he might have liked, and again, could potentially see him making that move over to Wales. And then finally, Jonathan Hogg at Huddersfield, I think he's probably a little bit unrealistic. I see him playing his football next season in the Championship, or if it is in League One, I can only really see that being with a Huddersfield, a Bolton, a Derby, someone who's really going to be up there challenging. I'm not saying Wrexham don't have that potential to challenge for next season, but I think they'll probably end up finishing around mid-table. A potential challenge of the playoffs, but I think a first season of stability, if they do back to back and they end up in the Championship with some of the players who they had in the National League, I think that gulf is going to be too much for them. So I think Wrexham need to be aiming for a season of stability, and I think any one of these signings would provide great competition for George Evans in midfield. Moving on then to my attacking midfielder suggestions, who could provide some competition for Elliot Lee. Firstly, we have Josh Windass at Sheffield Wednesday. His contract is set to expire this summer. Similar situation can be said for Chris Willock at QPR, and then finally Herbie Kane at Barnsley. His contract is also set to expire at the end of this campaign. Three very good suggestions. Josh Windass is a very much Wrexham type signing, someone who might not be particularly liked by majority of the other fans by the EFL, but I think would really work at Wrexham, if I'm honest with you. I think he could link up. I mean, you could even go all out attack and have Elliot Lee and Josh Windass in that midfield, and then you have someone like a Jonathan Hogg, a Will Vaux, Ollie Rathbone, or even George Evans as that holding midfielder. There is some very good options available on free transfers. I think Josh Windass in League One has proven he can be a very good player at this level. Chris Willock has been outstanding for QPR over the last couple of seasons. This season hasn't quite hit the heights that their fans would have maybe expected, but on a free transfer, who knows what could happen. I could definitely see him ending up at somewhere like a Peterborough or a Portsmouth, a club like that. I think maybe Wrexham, that might be a little bit too ambitious for them, but Wrexham have proven a lot of people wrong over the last couple of seasons in terms of some of their signings, and I think would be another outstanding signing for them. And finally, Herbie Kane at Barnsley, again a very ambitious signing. He's been excellent for them this season. He's one of the main reasons why they're currently in the playoffs alongside Devante Cole, who I personally don't see wanting to link back up again with Phil Parkinson. They didn't really get along very well at Bradford City, but Herbie Kane, again on a free transfer, will be an outstanding pickup. Is it realistic? Probably not, but it's Wrexham we're talking about. They've got the finances and they've certainly got the backing, and I think obviously on a free transfer would be an unbelievable pickup to provide some real competition for Elliot Lee, because he's not really had that. They've got some good players, but no one really competes with Elliot Lee in that Wrexham squad. Is certainly in that position anyway. Moving on then to my three striker suggestions for Wrexham. Firstly, we have Will Evans at Newport. His contract is set to expire at the end of this campaign. Charlie Wyke has got a lot of League One experience and his deal is up in the summer, and also Johnson Clark-Harris at Peterborough. His contract is also set to expire this summer. Lots of rumours of him going to them in the summer and then in January, and obviously a double Golden Boot winner. Starting out then with Will Evans, he scored over 20 goals this season in a really poor Newport side, and I feel like he might want to stay in Wales with him being Welsh himself, and I think would be a different type of option that we've seen Wrexham sign over the last couple of seasons. They've gone traditionally for a lot of experience who have been proven at that level, but Will Evans I think has had an outstanding season with Newport, and I don't think he would cost as much in terms of wages as some of the other options that they could potentially go out and sign, and he's proven he can be a goal scorer. I don't think a front two of Mullin and Evans would really work, if I'm honest. I do think Wrexham, in terms of their style of play, need a big physical striker, and that's why I've suggested someone like a Charlie Wyke. Not only can he be that target man, but he can play with his feet as well. Hasn't quite got his career going again. He's not really had a 20 or 30 goal a season season like what he did with Sunderland a couple seasons ago. Since he's moved to Wigan, he's done okay there. Obviously currently out on loan at Rotherham and has scored a couple of goals for them, but I think on a free transfer would be a good signing for Wrexham. And the final suggestion that I have made is Johnson Clark-Harris. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. He's a double Golden Boot winner. I genuinely believe if Wrexham sign Johnson Clark-Harris, they will be real playoff contenders for next season, and I think it's more than doable. I think Wrexham have got that pulling power. If they offer him 10, 12 grand a week, I think Clark-Harris would be happy with that, and you give him obviously a goal bonus, team of the season bonus, a Golden Boot winner bonus and all that sort of stuff. I do think it is realistic. There were strong rumours he was set to sign for Charlton in January. That unfortunately for them didn't materialise because Clark-Harris wanted too much money, but money to Wrexham, it doesn't really mean much, does it? And I feel like they've certainly got that pulling power to get someone like a Johnson Clark-Harris in and provide some real competition for Paul Mullin, Jack Marriott and also Stephen Fletcher as well, who I see taking a little bit more of a backseat for next campaign. Again, I don't know when his contract with the football club is actually set to expire. So let's move on then to my bonus suggestions. Again, we've got 3 more players here who don't necessarily fit into the positions that I think they necessarily need to improve in, but it's Wrexham, they've got far too much money that they need, and why not go and sign some better players in positions that you've already got too many players in. Starting out then with Conor Hourihane at Derby County. His deal is up in the summer. Same can be said about Josh Murphy at Oxford. His deal is also set to expire at the end of this campaign, and Dan Kemp as well at MK Dons. His contract length has not been disclosed publicly, but starting out with Conor Hourihane, when he signed for Derby, people were very surprised by that because of his quality that he produced in the Premier League with Aston Villa, and he'd done that for a couple of seasons. Could I see him making that move to Wrexham? Yes, this is exactly the type of signing that they would make. Do they need another option in that central midfield? No, but it's Wrexham we're talking about at the end of the day, and they've got a lot of quality already in there. Conor Hourihane would be another absolutely outstanding option, and on a free transfer I think would be a brilliant signing. Josh Murphy plays in a position that Wrexham don't really play with in terms of he's more of a winger, but I think Phil Parkinson could potentially turn him into a wing-back if they need to. They don't really need him, but his output at Oxford this season has been very good. He's absolutely rapid as well on that right side, and I think would provide some real competition for someone like a Ryan Barnett or a Luke Bolton, and I think it is an improvement on Anthony Ford as well. And I think on a free transfer, why not go and try and throw your weight around? And finally, Dan Kemp, MK Dons. His spell at MK Dons in the second half of the season hasn't quite been as good as what it was in the first half of the season with Swindon Town, but I'm pretty sure his deal with Milton Keynes is up this summer. If not, then it's the end of next season, but I think Wrexham have certainly got that financial backing and financial power to be able to bring him in. He can play as a false 9, he can play as a winger, play as a number 10, he could probably even play in a 3-man midfield to provide some competition for Elliot Lee and maybe a cheaper option to someone like a Windass, Willock or Herbie Kane. But there's a lot of quality on there. Maybe I've been a little bit too unrealistic with their options, but I feel like none of them are going to cost millions of pounds in transfer fees, and Wrexham will obviously have to be careful with financial fair play, but I'm pretty confident that the majority of these are realistic. Some might be a little bit unrealistic, but I think Wrexham, you know, the sky's the limit for them really, and I think if they're serious about wanting the playoffs again for next season, some of these signings I think they need to try and make done deals. But there we have it then. That is how I personally believe Wrexham should rebuild and build their squad around for next season. I spent a lot of time on this video, so if you have enjoyed it, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 100 likes, as I said at the start of today's video, that would be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We're on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below, Wrexham fans, where do you think you'll finish next season, and how many of these transfer target suggestions that I have suggested for your club to sign would you like to see come in for next campaign. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I did a similar video for Stockport County yesterday, so make sure to go check that one out if you haven't already, and I'll see you very soon for another one. Peace.